What is going on, guys, and happy Sunday. We're going to be diving in to some of the top stocks we are watching for this upcoming week like we do every single Sunday. So we're going to be diving into that stuff here first, looking at futures right now, slightly green, so nothing crazy, but slightly green. We have the VIX down a touch, which signals that we may be opening up decently, at least on SPY, at least in the green come Monday. But we'll see how this plays out come tomorrow morning. Obviously, taking a look at the S&P ETF right here, SPY. What do we got on Friday? We'll be actually we closed up towards the top of the range, right? Towards the high of the day. So all-time highs yet again. Looks like we're making a push this coming week. Now, in terms of getting back, I mean, looks like we've been kind of in a weird, or a slower pattern in a sense, where we kind of get up to this like 420-ish area, up towards like just over 420 on SPY, and then we kind of get stalled out. So we'll see if we can break through, maybe go up to 430, and we'll see how that plays out going forward. But we have some solid support to the downside, obviously down towards the low 400s if we ever come down that far. Honestly, at this point, that may not happen until we get some kind of news or something happens. My guess, at least going forward, in terms of all of this stuff, the overall market approach into the whole thought process on inflation and all the inflation fears, thought process behind that, at least for me, is going to be I'm expecting no one to really care until the fall. I mean, if we get to the fall and we start seeing some inflation numbers and they're staying elevated and they're not temporary, Powell's been saying, the Fed's been saying how it's temporary. Yeah, yes, we understand there will be inflation right now. CPI data comes out, great, but I don't think that people really are going to start caring about that until the fall comes. And if we start seeing those numbers stay elevated, if they start pulling back, then what the Fed said, honestly, is going to be playing out, honestly, according to their plan. So there's no reason to worry about that unless we get some other kind of news that does shake up the markets, which, of course, can come at any time. So we'll see how this plays out going forward. I do want to point out as well, crude oil. Honestly, I mean, I've been all over this for months. Look at this trend on crude oil ever since the beginning of 2021. Just absolutely beautiful trend. And I feel like the old guy that keeps coming back and saying, back in my day, oil stocks used to run when crude oil was pushing up. And to a degree, we kind of we've seen that in the past. But, I mean, I'm still waiting on those oil stocks. That's what I want to kind of start off with, at least for right now. CEI is one of those. When we take a look at CEI, crazy runs in the past, and it's sitting super low. I mean, so the risk reward down here is just, in my opinion, beautiful. A low float stock, tiny market cap, micro cap stock. I think they own like 60-something% of another company as well, Viking Energy Group. So, I mean, the setup for them for a PR or for an oil run, I think there's plenty of room. Up $1, $1.50. This is the kind of area that I'm looking at for a fill. Back, on this chart, back up into this range. Even if it's just a quick spike and drop back down like we've seen in the past, I mean, I would, depending upon why it runs, I will definitely be paying attention to that. Also, not that I want to short low float oil plays by any means, right? But if we do get a crazy spike on CEI or some other oil plays, there's a good bet that they're decent shorts if you're able to get them a day or two after the spike. They're decent plays potentially for the downside move as well, if they spike to a crazy degree, or if you can get a short, or you can maybe the next day, once you kind of see that the volume price action starts to fall off. They're usually good shorts as well because they spike and drop pretty hard. They're crazy stocks. You don't want to be chasing them in either direction, right? So either you get in early or you just stay away, in my opinion. But should be a good week. I am pumped for this week. Wish is in. Yeah, I was actually just pulling up Wish as we speak. I think my biggest position right now is ELYS, which is probably my biggest position right now. Not ELY. ELYS is my biggest one. It's sitting nicely. It's just right on this little shelf right here. We pushed up, had resistance up at this 475. We got above that, briefly over 5. I took some off the table, but then I actually, as my account has pushed up a little bit after like BCTX play, counts up a little bit more, so I actually re-added on this dip down here to the upper 400s. So under 5, I think is still 400s, upper 4s. Under 5, I think is good. In my eyes, we're waiting for some news here for them, but also this is a great sports betting play. I think it's a very undervalued company, at least as of right now, and we'll see how this plays out as we get into the fall football season and whatnot. This could be a really hot one going into 2022, so it's one that I'm playing. If pennies stay hot, I anticipate it to make a move in the near future, at least some sort of move. maybe up towards 6 or so. But if pennies cool back off into July, August, maybe I trim my position down, and I would expect it to pull back a little bit, and they'll give us some opportunities to add into this guy before things heat back up again. Kind of see those cycles, right? We see the hot markets, the cool markets, and there's always opportunity on both sides. So that's at least what I got there. ZCMD. Let's take a peek. What do we got on this guy? This is definitely I mean, I don't even know. Is this a high short float play? Let's take a peek. I'm pulling up on the side really quick. One sec. ZCMD. It's not. There's not a huge short percentage here, but this is definitely a stock that's at a bottom. Like I like this chart a lot. I would like to look into this one a little bit. But even if it seems like this is a China play, a Chinese stock. Yes, it is. Low float stock, small market cap, has history of spikes. You're buying this thing down at a low. I like this setup a lot down here with a solid support down towards like 160. So you risk 20 cents for, you get a spike. This thing goes up to like 250 in no time. So let me put that on the list, the watch list for the week. I got so much on the watch list, to be honest, especially after last week. So you got to be careful. I'm trying to make sure I'm not in a million different positions. I'm trying to be heavier in the ones that I'm in. So while I have utilized a good chunk of the cash that I'm in, I have, I think, like 20% of the account's cash right now. So I'm decently in the market right now for sure, but I want to make sure that I'm deploying that selectively still, because we are in June. June's not bad, but generally as we get to July, August, it slows down. So I want to make sure I'm not going to get caught holding, holding a bunch of stocks into that. So that's that. Wish is interesting. Let's pull up a Wish. I wanted to pull that one up. I was looking at this one earlier. A Wish is interesting because it had a little bit of a short squeeze or whatever kind of Reddit run in a sense. It got some attention there, but it's back down here to like $10-ish. Not a bad play. I think it's somewhat, from briefly looking at it, I think it was super undervalued in my opinion right down here when it was sub 10. So I think under $10 is potentially a really good spot on Wish. It was up towards 32, but after the IPO, I believe. So this is not a bad idea. But, obviously it just spiked, let it cool off a little bit. If it cools off a couple days, volume fades out, it'll establish a nice support. And at that point, that could be an opportunity to snag some. Sens is, actually, let me pull up Tesla really quick. Someone asked about Tesla. This is an interesting one. I have a bunch of lines on Tesla that I like. So here's where we currently are sitting at. It's in my my little range right here that I like it at. I like accumulating here. I have added some to my longer term portfolio on this recent pullback, which is good. And I would like to see Tesla pushing up here to that 775 area. That's my first target, up towards that range, this little high right here. Sens is an interesting stock. I personally, it had a pretty big, it's having some nice push here. If you like Sens, in my opinion, I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know enough, to be honest, about them deep down, what they have going on, cash position and all that stuff. But they had some recent news. This is why it's popping off of where it was. If you are someone who has been following this stock, because it is a fairly popular stock, your opportunity was April, May. I think right now, yeah, you could still be getting in on a better buy, but your risk reward here is much, much more skewed than it was back down in here. Yeah, it's tough to buy it here because it's downtrending and no one wants it, but that's exactly, if you like this play, that's exactly how you got to kind of shift your thoughts. When no one wants it is when you got to be thinking, do I want this? Look into it a little bit more, yes or no. And if you want this stock, then that's the opportunity to buy when, seemingly everyone's negative on it, when it keeps falling off, selling off every day. And that's what we did. That's what I did for all my swings. It was not easy for, quite some time, and I was careful, and I definitely, I lost some more money, I guess not necessarily realized, right? But I took some more unrealized losses by holding some swings down through some downtrends. And I, realistically could have handled that a little bit better in terms of next time. And that's how I'm going to look at things going into the summer if we do start seeing signs of a lot of things pulling back. But at the same time, there was a good chunk of time that was buying as the sell-off slowed down, buying. No one wanted it, and now we're reaping the rewards where things are curling off of bottoms. Things are setting up with really good risk rewards as they've established their supports and they're bouncing. So I just kind of honed in on what stocks I liked, that I felt the sector was good, that the company was decent, they had good cash. I liked their potential pipeline of either what they had going on behind the scenes, what could they be dropping some news on in the near future about. And those are the plays that I was adding on those dips. So this is not a bad. I mean, it's got resistance up here at 425. So let's see how that plays out. Over 425, I would say 5 to 550, and then after that, that can get pretty crazy as it be breaking out to new highs. Let's see. SOS is an interesting one as well. I think a very heavily shorted stock as well. SOS is one of those that went nuts. Had some short seller reports, is pulling back. Let me take a look on the side here. If I can pull up SOS on the side really quick. Finviz is interesting. They haven't given the SOS short percentage of the float. I know it's high though, for sure. But we're seeing SOS has some solid support down here just under $3, and it's back up here. It briefly got over 4, but it's pulled back a little bit. It has some range on the chart for sure, but it's one of those that also is going to correlate in a sense to Bitcoin. So you can look at Bitcoin too, as well, because I want to pull this up. This will definitely be something to be watching. Bitcoin popping right now, but we're kind of in a potential bear flag, if you guys kind of know what I mean. So we have our pull. This is our flag pull down, okay? And here's your flag. So now what you want to see is if Bitcoin gets back up, let's say over like 41,000, then it kind of breaks to the north or the upside of that flag, and it doesn't kind of go into that bearish, pattern. That it doesn't continue with that bear flag, I guess. But if Bitcoin gets, finds resistance up here around 40K and pulls back to the downside, then drops below 30K in the coming weeks, then that bear flag, would be valid, right? And so that's what we're potentially looking at. Could be is also, while it's a bear flag, we also have it's just an opportunity for a trade too, potentially, because you have solid support here down towards like 30,000, the low 30,000. So if you're picking up Bitcoin down in the 30,000s, the low 30,000s, and you're saying, okay, if Bitcoin falls under 30K, I'll cut it. And it makes the risk reward pretty easy. So sometimes I kind of like playing that stuff, even though it is technically a bear flag. It's okay. Well, you know what? If we get a bounce off this 30K, low 30Ks, that's a decent bounce play. So we'll see. This is going to be interesting to see how Riots and Mara play out. Let's take a peek at these guys. Haven't looked at them in a while. They look like they're kind of bouncing as Bitcoin is consolidating. They're bouncing, and I would expect if Bitcoin holds up over 40K or pushes up over 40K into tomorrow morning, that, we get a little bounce on Riot and Mara. Riot's got a decent area up here towards 34, over 34, I would say up towards 40 next on that. But these are potentially setting up for some moves. SOS as well. So we'll see. NNDM, TRCH. TRCH I have been paying attention to. I just never got in. I know it's a very popular play, but look at that. Beautiful, rebounding off of the lows that it hit. And it's, making a nice move back on up. So this is doing quite well. NNDM, I have quite a few lines in running. Yes, NNDM is getting up, showing resistance around this $8 area. Just about $8 sometime. It got just over $8 actually. But it's showing some resistance up around that area, so it needs to kind of get back up over that. It's fine. A healthy little pullback is no big deal, but we'd like to see it holding up over like that 750 area for that next move up. Definitely one of those stocks that has made quite a run and has pulled back a good bit. So for those who've been accumulating dips, I think you're still at a relatively good, spot based on our past chart history here. Again, though, deeper into the company, longer term outlook, that's a potentially different story. But I see the appeal both sides. Let's see. We're going to see a lot of TBLT. TBLT is a pain in the butt because I will tell you, I have it on my list. It's like on my list all the time. I mean, it's always on my watch list. And in a sense, I want to grab it. But at the same time, it's just one of those stubborn stocks that, you need some good news, and it may finally go. I'll look a little bit deeper into their recent numbers and sales and whatnot on this last earnings report, because I think I missed that in terms of what they were doing. But it's showing on the surface something 12.28 in revenue, so million. Let's pull up TBLT. The market cap on TBLT is 60 million. So if they did revenue of 12 million in a quarter, times by I don't know. I want to take a closer look, see if we're looking at expansions and see if we should see, revenue increasing. If we go back to this revenue, back in here in March, 12 million, and then we go back here, 16 million. So revenue isn't actually necessarily doing super great. But if you go back to last year, you're talking 3.9, you're talking 6.4. But there's usually a bigger story as well to talk about. So this is an interesting stock. I like it down here. Honestly, under 75 I think it looks really good, chart wise. And the problem is that this is one of those that generally spikes. It pops and drops off of news. just my history with it. Now, of course, that could change, and it had a good run back in the beginning of 2021. So could we get a run like that again? I think it's possible, but TBLT is definitely one of those stubborn stocks, at least in my book, because you just want to get a good entry on. You don't want to be buying this thing too high up. But that is that. AEMD this week, direct placement at 9. It's sitting below. My only problem with AEMD is this. I mean, I looked into that article that came out that sent it flying a little bit, but I would want to look a little bit deeper into the company here. But my issue is I know you look back way out to the left and you go back to 2019 and you see this decent range up here towards like $20 on the chart. But this I never want to mess with this on the long side, because you have such range down that the risk reward here, you want to, if you're going to trade it, maybe you play it with a $6 stop loss. So, okay, AEMD falls under $6, I'm out for a bounce play. But because it ran so much, this is also one of those stocks that could fit that 3-day rule, where usually like a stock makes a big run, give it 2 to 3 days later, and it sometimes can be a good candidate for a bounce. So what you want to look for that is the 1 hour chart, and you want to be seeing where it's holding up. And actually, as I said, 6 roughly, yeah, it's actually not a bad spot. $6. See this? See how it came down here on the 10th to just about 630? The next day, it held up in the low 6s quite well. So you want to see $6 holding. If $6 can hold, that's a good sign for a potential bounce play back on up. It's just the risk reward here on if you're not following it closely, you got to make sure you're on it. Cut it under 6 is how I play it. Now, of course, it could bounce, but that is what it is. Because of this run to 18, though, I think it shows traders that this has range, and it kind of reminds me of a lot of those low float plays that sometimes they'll get, over the course of a week or two or even 3 weeks, they'll have one big run and they'll get those mini pops along the way before they finally kind of fade out and people lose interest. So not a terrible idea. Just be careful on it, though. I do want to touch on FSR because I actually had my shares assigned. I had an 850. Believe it or not, I had an 850 covered call that I sold for this week. Wasn't necessarily paying attention, but I'm not really too concerned. And it sold. So I got that, it executed in a sense, right? So I had sold the covered call and I lost those shares on FSR. But my intention here is, hey, if I can get FSR under 850, I'll buy it back. It's also, if you take a look at the daily chart, it is pretty, extended here. Now, could it go straight up to 30 again? Yeah, but it's getting up there. It's got some resistance around this 18 to 19 to 20-ish area. So we'll have to see if it gets over 20. But at the moment, I'm out of FSR because I sold those covered calls. Now this stock has been an absolute blessing because from all the dips I was able to buy and selling covered calls into the spikes, the trade was an absolute risk-free trade, and I definitely made quite a bit on this overall. So it was fun. Definitely. I mean, I'm still playing it, but on these pops, not terrible sell opportunities, and look to buy dips on that one. Longer term outlook there as well. Good Sunday night again from Melbourne Beach, Florida. Awesome. Right now it's hot in Texas. Austin, Texas is hot. We're at the point now where it's like you get outside and it's like doesn't matter if it's sunny, if you're in the shade, you're just like soaked. I personally prefer that over being cold by any at all. I don't want to even be not even cold. I don't even like to just be in the 60s is cold for me now these days. I know it's just moving to Texas has changed that completely, but I like it. I like it hot. Now I guess to a degree it can get crazy. It could get a little a little too much at times, but I mean I'd prefer that over it being negative, right? RGLS right here is a super weird stock. So my thoughts on RGLS is I don't know. I really don't know. I would like to see it holding $1. So maybe I would play. You can play it down here at $1. I just saw the weirdest price action on Thursday that I've ever seen on a stock ever. So the stock opens up here. I was actually in it with a swing the day prior. I was up a little bit in the morning saying, oh, awesome, RGLS is running. I might take some profits here if it pushes on up. And then it hits 148 and then it pulls back. Now here's the thing. I saw it in some chat rooms. I saw it on social media. We saw some attention pumps, whatever you want to call them. I don't want to call them pumps, but people saying, hey, RGLS, here's their pipeline. Here's what we got going on behind the scenes. Here's why I like it, right? All it really does is they have a lot of followers. People see that and they go, oh my gosh, I got to buy RGLS. Boom, they jump in. Volume goes crazy. But then we hit this point where we hit 148 and we just sold off. Now, we went from 148, okay, to 98 cents. That is a drop of just about 34%, okay, in about, what was that, an hour, 2 hours? 2 hours. We dropped 34% intraday. There was no news. There was no offering at the time. None of that stuff. So not only did the stock go red, and the market was actually not like there was no crazy dip in the market. Not only did the stock go red, but it went red massively on this day. So from the prior day close, the stock was literally down like 20% from the prior day close. You know, I didn't understand what the heck that was. So I just said, you know what, I'm stepping aside here and I'm getting out of this guy. But it's holding up in the low ones. That may just be some manipulation, getting the retail traders out, and they're going to run it up after this, which if it happens, I would not be surprised. I'm personally just going to stay away after that price action, but that's just me. It's probably not a bad idea here down towards 1. I liked it higher, so I mean, I would say not a bad spot down here. Sorry if I'm missing some stuff. Let's see, Archon, RCON. I think this one got some attention, I believe, this week, if I'm not mistaken. Wow, that's also some crazy price action as well. Did they have an offering or something? But this is very similar to RGLS, that price action. That's nuts. Archon pushes up, hits 1750, plummets after that. That is nuts. That is very nuts to see that type of move down to $4. The thing was at like 12. It hits 4. There had to be some news associated with that as well. But that's an opportunity potentially for a dip buy down here. So I don't know if I would be messing with it right now. It may get like a dead cat bounce or like a sympathy bounce come Monday. But personally, guys, this is a risky play, at least right here. Give it a couple days, let it establish a new support. Let's see if maybe it holds up down here around $5. If it holds $5, then okay, maybe take a shot at it down towards 5. But right now, this is maybe a little bit too volatile come tomorrow, at least for my liking. For a swing, at least as of right now. But it's an idea to throw on the list and have ready to go. Come to the beach. That's the one thing that that I'm somewhat nothing. I mean, not that I had much beach access in Connecticut. That's where I lived for most of my life. But being so hot down here, you kind of wish you had a beach. We got a pool here. We got a lake and all that stuff at the apartment. There's a pool and there's a river and lake and stuff. So. It's good. It's all good. 65 and humid today. It was gross. Yeah, imagine like 95. That's what it is every day. 95 now. Dream is to be able to trade full time any beach. That's the thing. That's why I think it's so important for, and it really honestly, when it comes down to the whole basis behind the channel and everything that I'm hopefully doing is. I don't want to be, I have no intention, and you guys know by the content and by how I do stuff, I have no intention to be the guy to just call out stocks and be like, yeah, buy the stock. No, don't want to do the whole Discord call out thing. Don't do the Patreon, none of that stuff, none of that. I'd rather be able to help people build out their own style and own plans so that they can do it themselves, right? So you literally could do it on the beach. Like I know a lot of people who just strictly trade on their phones because they've done it so long. They kind of know they got a collection of stocks that they like. They do their assessment at night maybe on their computer. Then all day long, they're just at the pool on their phone. They're trading on the phone. They're at the beach. They can do whatever they want. As long as they got a signal, right, they can trade. And that's it. And when you get to a point of building up enough capital, that 1% starts to become thousands of dollars on a trade, then at that point, right, you can do whatever you want, and you don't even have to be, going for 500%, 1,000% returns year over year. The way that I see it too is like I think if you're trying to be an active trader. Now this is nothing against anyone who's done, who's already done very well in terms of year over year compounding of growth, right? If you can do 20%, 30% consistently per year on your account, in your more active account, swing trading, day trading, whatever, that's awesome because you're beating the markets overall, right? But if you can do, I think it's a for someone who wants to be and strives to be an active trader, I think 100% returns year over year is extremely doable. Now, top traders will go and do much better than that, right? But I think 100% returns is extremely doable. And if you do the math on how long that will take, I don't care if you're starting with $1,000 or if you're starting with $100,000, wherever you're at, you do the math on that, give yourself a couple of years, you're at a very, very sustainable, I think, level for an active trader. And you're also at a point within a couple of years, even if you're starting from scratch, right, where the money becomes substantial, right? And it's not like you're going and making $2 on a trade. So I think that's a goal that I think people who are starting out and who are fairly new should strive for, the consistency of seeing that a couple years in a row. And at least myself, I had such inconsistency like years back, and I lost quite a bit of money in options and whatnot. But what I will say is that the past 2 years have been super consistent, 100+% returns year over year now, and it's been super awesome to see. Now, this is also a year pre-pandemic, and then you have the pandemic market as well. So the pandemic market was super hot, but then I had the pre-pandemic market also to kind of show me that, hey, even before this, I could still do it, right? So it's not like it's a fluke, right? That's key. So as you build up, it's fun to see. So I'm hoping to improve that. I know myself I can totally improve that, and especially if I implement some more day trades and improve my style, and you're always kind of improving little by little. If you do that stuff, I mean, realistically, you can be at a crazy level within a couple of years. The way that I see it in terms of a monetary standpoint. And then I think it's also funny, like, you see all the crazy gains. I don't think anyone's going to be, anyone's going to care if you're doing 100% or if you're doing 500%. Once you start hitting up into the 6-7 figure mark of your account size, at that point, you're talking about money that most people never see, right? Which is nuts. Don't apologize for missing stuff. I know. I feel bad that I missed some people's stocks and stuff, but I can't get it all. I want to pull up this. This as well. This is Amazon. Long time no see, Callum in the house. Appreciate it. We're up here, Amazon right now. I like this is because it's a massive bull flag. So here's your poll and a massive flag. I was actually just analyzing this for some videos for a product that I'm working on right now, but this is an interesting stock because you have multiple bull flags here, and this is like a year-long consolidation. So Amazon's been in this range from like 2,900 up to about 3,500 for so long. But we're looking like we're putting in roughly, the lows are getting a little bit higher, and we're seeing, more continuation to the upside. So Amazon may be getting ready for its next push, and we'll see how that plays out. I just want to point that one out for those looking at Amazon as a growth play and saying, yeah, I want to buy Amazon, or you're like, I don't know what to do. Should I get it? I think you're going to, obviously down towards the bottom of this range, down towards 3,000 or less, I would like. But if you haven't grabbed any in like a long-term or in like an IRA, it wouldn't be a terrible idea to grab something now, because I think we're getting close to Amazon eventually testing these highs, testing 3,500, and then making a move, making a little breakout possibly to the upside for a couple weeks, months, if the market stays fairly strong like we've been seeing. So we'll see. That's at least my anticipation with Amazon. AMC, let's take a peek at how it finished up. Here's what's interesting. AMC, you can't trade this as if you're trying to trade this based off of your lines, you're gonna mess it up. I'll tell you that, because we can see that AMC was holding this trend line roughly and then eventually fell out, but it popped right back up. So we kind of see a bottom, higher lows putting in, and it's holding on up. So it's around that $50 level. We'll see how tomorrow goes on AMC. I'm curious because my anticipation here, I don't want to say my anticipation, but my guess on AMC, right? If we look at the volume bars, they've pulled back substantially. I want to see volume higher than Friday. So I want to see more than 215 million shares traded on AMC on Monday. If I see that, that's probably a really good sign for AMC, right? It just seems like people have slowly just kind of faded out attention-wise. It started to fade, and that was my concern, saying, hey, if this starts to fade out, people are going to get impatient. People are going to get antsy, and they may just take their money out and move on. So we'll see how that plays out. Now, of course, you got the apes and whatnot, but that are that will not sell. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of people on the other side that are just like, I made some money, I'm going to get out, right? Or screw this, I'm out. So we'll see how that plays out. Volume is going to precede the price there. We need to see volume come back in. Volume did, hold up quite well on Thursday and Friday. So we'll see if that continues into Monday. Love that you're trading and investing at your age. Hope your friends, others are learning from you. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And the crazy thing too is that I've been doing it for, 5 years. I would say 3 years of that on and off, in the past 2 more seriously. And ever since I've started taking it more seriously, right, I've been seeing a lot better results. And I think it's there's a lot of people who are just not interested, and then there's quite a few that are super interested. And any questions, I'm more than happy to help with. So that's the intention. Financial independence first, then you can do anything you want. Exactly. That's it. And I think trading is a great vehicle to get you there. Especially, and I don't want to get into, I'm not one to get into all the taxes and whatnot, and the capital gains taxes and politics by any means. Now, of course, it's not really political, I guess, whatever. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's whatever happens, and you have to adjust. But it is the stock market is one of, and investing, right, is one of the proven ways that people over time, right, build massive wealth, especially when you start out young. The way that I see it, though, is that in a sense, if you can do it faster at a young age, I want to be able to do that. That's why I really got into that in the past couple of years. Really, ever since I was like midway in college, I had a switch flip, and I was like, I got to change what I'm doing, because it was not. I was betting on sports and stuff, and I was losing money. And actually, I didn't lose a ton of money, but I was betting on sports. I had no money, and I was like, I got to change something around. That's when things shifted for me, at least. FSLY, I've seen this one a few times. Let's pull it up. FSLY, it filled this gap right here, but it's got range. I mean, after it bounced down to about $40, it's kind of trending back up. I think it's got range here. If it gets back over 60, it has a range up to like 75. So I would say 75 would be a decent target on this one. Although I would not be surprised if we see a pullback. Why? Because we have this area right here. I'll just draw this line in because it's easier to see. Prior support down around like this upper 50s area, 57, 58. We hit up to that level and then we pulled back. So this pullback could be good, but just be careful if we can't get above that 60 in the next couple of sessions. Just be careful of a potential larger pullback and just watch the market. If we get a bigger pullback and the market pulls back, then this could be a play that you want to be grabbing under $50 for a bounce back. But yeah, I mean, after the big run, right, it's had its ups and downs for sure. It's got a lot of these gaps to fill back to the upside. So there's range there. I don't know enough about them fundamentally to know how to want to play this super long term, but that's just me. I don't have enough research that I've done. But for those who have, this could be even a great longer term play as well. Yeah, you gotta love the spam sometimes in the chat. Random stuff. And also, I think it's a given. I don't even say it in my videos, but I think it's hopefully a given. If you guys will see in the comments, a lot of times I flag things as spam. To alert YouTube, and I'll ban certain people that I see that are spamming and putting WhatsApp numbers and Bitcoin stuff in the comments. But hopefully you guys understand that stuff in the comment section, when you see spam like that, sometimes they're impersonating my account, other people's accounts. Those aren't actually real. Those are like bots or whatever, or those are spammers. Just please don't ever, I'm never going to ask anyone for money or any of that stuff, literally at all. And especially there's a whole thing of like Instagram and stuff that people are getting DM'd by these random people and that are impersonating accounts and stuff. Just, I literally just don't mess with that stuff. Just stay away. I hope that people understand that. And there's plenty of people who've made videos and talked about it in the past, but that's a given. So I try to do my best. It's like literally like a part-time or almost full-time job. Sometimes going through and like literally marking every comment as spam, reporting it to YouTube. So I try to do my part, but YouTube really needs to figure out how to fix that problem. Let's see. MRO. Marathon Oil. Price target at 15 has potential to go. Yeah, I mean, oil is still trending up. I mean, that's the thing. I was looking at, if we look back to this right here, look at crude oil. I mean, this has been a beautiful trend. Now, at some point, it's going to probably pull back. I mean, we're pretty high. Look at this. I mean, we're getting back up to this area that we were back in 2018, up to like the low 70s. So we got some resistance around that 75. So my only kind of concern is that we recovered quite a bit. If you go back, we've recovered back up into this 2019 area. $15 PT is not that much higher than where we're currently at. So if you look at it from right where it's at right now, you know, $15 is roughly like 10%, which is not bad. But in terms of downside, if oil pulls back, I mean, you can probably see more than 10% downside. So just be careful of that. This is one that's definitely been, it's correlated to oil for sure, but be careful, just all I'll say. Because we've recovered quite a bit, and the range up as oil is continuing to push up. Could oil go to like 85 a barrel? You know, crude oil, maybe. I mean, could it? Yeah. But just be careful because we're getting up there. PBW. What is PBW? I don't know. PBW. Look at this. This is an interesting chart. We have, looks like a downtrend that's kind of broken, right? We can kind of see this downtrend. I'll draw this line in right here. Not horizontal. I'll do a trend. Let's connect some of these. Yeah, roughly there's your rough downtrend that we were in for a little bit. Broke out of that. You're gonna have resistance up around 95, and then $100 is my guess. But an interesting bounce. I don't know much about it, but it's a clean energy ETF. Yeah, you know what? Clean energy stuff has been perking on up. I think this is gonna have some more to it. This is definitely something that we're going to see more of. It's not going away. So if you're looking at this one, I would be stacking this one up as a longer term position. So if you're going to buy it here, buy it sub $100 and just on dips every time you get paid, whatever, buy a little more, right? Buy fractional shares, buy a share, buy 10 shares, whatever your account size is. Just buy a little bit more every month, every couple of weeks. Dips or no dips. I think this is, clean energy is not going anywhere. So I like that. Personally, I prefer my stocks, individual stocks, rather than an ETF, but that's just me. This is more of a laid back, you don't have to worry about it, and you're just chilling on your ETF, and this has range, right? This can make some significant strides. BC as a reopen play. I'm also very interested in, this is actually not bad, it's actually sitting in a pretty good spot. Why is that? Look at this, right here. Prior resistance was up around this 95. Now look at that. Very nice support developing around that 95. This is not a bad, this is actually a pretty good spot, I think, if you're looking for an entry point on a dip, relative dip. I'm surprised how some of these REITs are finally going now. Now, I guess maybe the earnings, I didn't look into this too deep, but I guess into the earnings recently, we can see that numbers have been on the rise, yeah, relatively speaking. So interesting. But these are going crazy. Look at these rates. I mean, look at AHT. It's one of the biggest popular ones out there. I mean, you can't deny this volume. Look at this volume it's just super strong volume past couple of weeks. And if you look back to the left on this stock, it has quite the range. Now, yeah, okay, you go back to pre-pandemic drop, which was right here. Yeah, was it downtrending? Yeah. Yeah, but you're also looking at where it's at right now, and relative to those levels, you have plenty of range up. So from where it's at right now to pre-pandemic levels, you've got to go to $25, okay? Which would indicate 300% upside from here. I don't think it's going to do 300% upside. It could, yes, but if think about it, the reason why a lot of people like it is if you can still get it at 6 in the under $7, and you can get this thing on a ride to like 15, you're talking still about over 100% upside from where it's at. So it's a pretty decent risk reward play. Just be careful about buying the top of it, right? That's something that I kind of did on a momentum type of idea, and then I added to my position on dips. So I actually like it down here at like $6. If it does dip down to 6 again, I like it. I'll be probably messing around with it and scalping it, buying it down to 6 and setting some sales up a little bit with holding a core position size for a bigger move to $10+. We'll see what happens on this thing. This could be crazy for sure. What penny stocks am I currently in? Well, that will be yesterday. I talked about that in yesterday's video. I go every single week. The end of the videos, I go over all the stocks I am currently holding. Specifically how I found them in researching. Yes, so that is also not to be like, I'll talk about it here, but also if you want more insight, every Saturday I drop a video with what I'm holding, and also I have videos on how to find stocks to trade or buy. The playlist, there's a playlist that's called something like that on the channel. I have like multiple videos just detailing the process, everything I do. It's really not as complicated as people may think. So what it comes down to after that is a little bit of research and also identifying my risk reward trading plans so that I'm in a stock and I know what I'm doing. I'm not just buying it randomly and holding it and that's it. I buy a chunk. I'm looking for a dip. If we get a dip down to this level, I'll buy a little bit more. It dips again, I buy a little bit more. If my thesis is still intact, if I like the stock fundamentally, the outlook is still there, nothing has fundamentally changed, I'll buy it at support and look to sell into pops or spikes or catalysts and whatnot. But I'll generally use either my trading journal, which is going to be basically stocks I've traded in the past, and I log them. So I log watch lists. So if I trade stocks in, let's say, the cannabis sector, if I trade stocks in the EV sector, I build out a watch list and I put a stock in that watch list. So I can always come back to it and reassess. Also, the trading journal is just, I have a video on the channel too about that. It's an Excel doc and I log trades, I log profit loss, what happened, what went right, why I got in, why I got out. And I can always refer back to that. So let's say I look like TBLT is on my log, right? TBLT is one of those on my log. And I have a couple wins on TBLT. I think I may have a couple losses as well. But on that, I have it written down. It's a stubborn stock. It doesn't necessarily make those crazy moves that you'll see on a lot of low float penny stocks. So it's a slower mover. It's a stubborn stock. It's a pop and drop on news generally. Now, of course, that could change, right? But I kind of I can identify the personality, right, in a sense of a stock on that journal. And so if I'm going to trade it again, if I come across TBLT in a scan, I'm looking on FinViz, or I see somebody on social media talking about TBLT, I write it down. The next week I come around, I take a look. Oh, let me take a look at TBLT. I like it. I go back to my notes. What happened last time? What did it do? Okay, at least I have that in my head going in, which could help me out when I'm building out my trading plan. So, okay, if TBLT gets some news, I'm going to sell 75% of my position on that spike of news, lock in gains, and then I'll ride the rest up if it continues. But history, right, my trading has told me it likes to pop and drop, so that's why I want to lock in most of my gains on that spike in case, right, it comes right back down. I'm locking in more. So that's why I like using the trading journal. It's super helpful. I guess as you progress and develop, you don't necessarily need it as much, but if you're someone starting out, it's massive. It was massive to how I was able to, and really a lot of these stocks, they repeat the same cycles. A lot of the penny stocks, the same cycles repeat. They pop up, they get news, they push on up, they drop an offering, they pull back, reverse stock split, whatever. They fall down to support. It builds support, it bottoms out, same thing happens again. Company drops some news, the stock spikes on up, they do an offering, they raise capital, it comes back. So like it's rinse and repeat with a lot of these stocks. So every couple of months, I'm playing a lot, sometimes, right? I'm back in the same stock I was just in a couple weeks ago, right? So it's fun to do that. Let's see, sorry if I'm missing stuff. I'm going to scroll back up. Thoughts on Tesla? Yeah, so I've seen a few people pointing out Tesla. I mentioned a few minutes ago, but I'll pull it up again really quick. I like it in this range from 625 down to like 550. I actually added to my position in the long-term account as well. I had it from much lower average. I think I had it from somewhere back in here, but I added to it then past couple weeks. I think I bought it somewhere under $600, which I was like, okay, great, I'll buy it. Target here will be like 775. It's been on a crazy run, so could it come down below 550? Yes. I'm just not one to, on Tesla at least specifically, while you could swing it and just trade that all, that's it, that's all you trade. You could do that. I'm just kind of, my outlook is I'm not really worried about it. I'll just kind of stack it away, stash it in a longer term account, buy dips on it, and that's it. So if it does dip again, then I'll add some more. If it does kind of dip down, let's say to 500 or in the 400s, I'll be buying some more down there. That's my outlook on it. Personally, that's really it. NOVN is another one that's been, okay, this popped up. So they had news. I would be waiting on this one. Actually, if anything, this is on my watch list. Now, they had positive phase 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my watch list for possibly a bounce on Monday, but also, if anything, I would be looking at this for even a short opportunity. Nothing against the company. And that's, people also have asked me too. They're like, why would you short a stock in, this space that's doing research on this and that? There's nothing against, I have nothing, when I short a stock, there's nothing against the company. It's just literally, what do I see more opportunity here? Where is it going to go? And people were, not pissed, but people were all up, and saying, no, ATOS is going to go crazy after it had already run because they had some data coming out. But here's ATOS. This is a stock that people talked about, and it may bounce. I'm not shorting it now, but I was saying back when it was up over 6, I was like, if anything, I would be shorting the stock right here. And people were like, oh, how could you do that? It's their cancer and research and whatnot. I was like, no, nothing against that. I'm saying, look at the stock. It made a run from 150 to 682. It went parabolic. Okay, they just dropped data. They have an S3, so they can do an offering whenever they want right now. They've done a ton in the past. They've been pretty dirty with offerings in the past, doing multiple offerings in a month. I'm like, this is definitely not a long, and this is not where I would want to initiate a long position. Definitely not. So, and it did. It came down. It fell under $5, and it actually fell down under $4, even as well. Now it's coming back down. I just give it some time to settle down, in my opinion, but it may bounce right back up. Who knows? But for sure, it's a short-term trade. It's either a day trade or a very short-term swing that I'm looking at for a drop back down after a crazy run, and then let it reset, and then you can go long again. When it resets, find support, you can go long. But it's also a risk here too, because it was going parabolic, and you have to kind of narrow in. If you're looking at this thing and you're like, I want to short it. Okay, great, but you also don't want to be shorting the stock, right, as it's going parabolic, and when is it going to end? You don't know, right, sometimes. And so that's the danger of that too. But when we saw this dip right here down sub 5, I was actually paying attention, and it held back up, and then they had data the next day. They dropped the data, right? What happens? Sell the news. The data comes out, the stock sells off. So this right here was a signal to me saying, oh, this is interesting, right? A hard sell-off, right, midday. It could just be a stop-loss hunt, could be a combination of manipulation and whatnot, but I was like, Then when they drop the data and the stock starts pulling on off, this would have been an opportunity come on, this is Thursday, to even potentially go short on ATOS. Actually, this is Wednesday to go short ATOS for a day trade, down from where it was up around 560 down to like $5, and then ended up falling below 5. Actually, it fell below 4 the next day. But then now see if we're looking at this chart right here, the 5-minute chart, what are we seeing right now? Well, now it's holding up. So now you see how it's putting in higher lows, or roughly, right? We'd be dipped down to 383. We're holding up over 4 now. Now, as long as ATOS holds over $4, it's showing us that it's developing support. So this is an opportunity potentially now to go long on ATOS. So even though, right, you may have a longer term outlook on ATOS and think this is going to be a great play longer term, that's fine. But inside of that longer term outlook, there's still opportunity up and down on any stock. So like I said, even on any of my stocks, to be honest. I mean, I think I did it on AREC. I did it. It was AREC. I had been swinging this stock. I still have a longer term outlook. I think it's in a really good spot right now. Risk reward down here under $3 is really good risk reward wise. But because you don't get a lot of the EV batteries and a lot of battery technology without this company, especially going forward. So it pops up. I was in it. It had news. I sold my shares over $4, and then they dropped an offering. So I actually, when they dropped the offering, I was paying attention. I saw it come up, and I was able to actually short this stock when they had the offering. And the offering came, I think, right here. So it was holding up around this 350 area. Offering came, and it went down to 282. Now, I just took a piece of that move, but I was able to capitalize on a nice little chunk of that move, even though I was literally just long this stock earlier that day. So you kind of can see that. And then I'll buy it again, and then I'll come back and buy it again. I'll buy this thing and swing it again. So you can kind of see that as you kind of progress and as you're watching stocks and as you're paying attention to stocks longer term, there's opportunity up and down in bull markets, bear markets. You can kind of note it. You kind of see, and this is exactly the same idea right here with AREC, right? Right? Pump it up. They drop news, drop an offering, raise capital, stock falls back down to support, and the cycle repeats. Same thing. It's the same with a lot of these penny stocks. So as you start to notice that, there's no need, and one of the other things too, there's no need if you're feeling FOMO, and there is no need for you to have to feel like you need to go and trade that top percent gainer on the day, trade what everybody else on social media is trading. You don't have to do any of that. If you just have a couple of key stocks on your list that you've traded in the past and you kind of know how they play, how they move, and you got a good feel for their price action, stick to those. You can make quite a bit of money. I know people who literally only trade Tesla. That's it. They hold some long term, and then they go long and short Tesla every day. That's it. They just trade Tesla price action every day, and it's one stock. It makes it simple. They don't have to worry about finding stocks to trade. They know Tesla's volatile enough. They build up enough account. They build up a decent account size where a 0.5% move is a substantial trade for them, and they're scalping Tesla up and down, up and down. So maybe Tesla moves up 1% that day, but inside of that move up 1%, they were going long, short, and so they made 3% on their account that day because they were able to capitalize on more than that 1% move. So that's simplicity, right? Simplicity is key. This is also, I like AREC a lot. So, I mean, I'm probably, it's when if I hit a couple swings that hit news or I scale out of other swings and it's still sitting down here under 3, I'll be adding back into this one. EQOS, artificial volume, they had a price target of like 80 something bucks. EQOS is a very interesting play, and it popped up, but it had a random, like a crazy price target. So be cautious on that because it was like too high, in my opinion. It was like too high for this to be like something sketchy going on there. So we'll see how that plays out. This could be an interesting one though come Monday morning. Swing trades WYY, CLW. Surf is an interesting one as well. Pola is one as well. What's interesting is, what was I going to say? We're getting back into that hurricane season. So how is our PPSI doing? How is PPSI? This was a stock that I had one of the most insane trades of my life, literally. But I missed out on a good chunk. Well, I didn't miss out, but I was in it and I was saying, hey, hurricane was forming in the Gulf, or I think was not in the Gulf. It was further south and whatnot, right? Hurricane forming doesn't look good. The next day, thing goes crazy because it's a generator company, and it's held up quite well. It's got some support down here towards this under 3, but it's doing quite well. It's another one of those that hurricane season comes along. We're ready to go again on this guy. Be careful. Be ready for this guy on dips, and if we see a hurricane maybe possibly forming, we'll talk about it in these lives. Journaling and diligence for that process is important. Looking forward to checking again. Appreciate that. That's journal. I mean, I'm telling you guys, journaling is massive, and you don't have to be like, spending 7 hours journaling. I mean, I have a video going over the template of how it works, and it's fairly straightforward, and you can make it as in depth or as simple as you want when it comes down to it. Oils are hot right now. A lot of biotech plays are bouncing. A lot of biotech stocks are fairly hot right now as well. There's just some recent conferences for some biotech plays, so that's been fairly hot. And then I think we're going to be seeing the EVs have been turning up a little bit as well with NEO and FSR and whatnot have been bouncing. I'm curious to see how the cannabis sector plays out. Tilray is my favorite guide. Tilray has been bouncing off the bottoms, putting in higher lows. So watching Tilray, if it gets back up over $20 and holds over $20, that's an interesting play. So we'll see if we get some news relatively soon. What I think is crazy about the cannabis industry in general is, I'm not sure if you guys know, and you may, but the whole cannabis industry, so right in Texas, a very red state, right? So you can imagine that, okay, cannabis is illegal, right? But there's different strains. So there's something called Delta 8, and it's essentially like a different strain, I guess, off of THC. It's like THC Delta 8. THC Delta 9 is what's illegal. But in a lot of states, you actually, that cannabis, right, that weed is illegal. These other forms are legal. And so that's what's interesting to me. And if you try them and whatnot, some people will say it's not as strong. It isn't. I think it's like a lesser dose, or not as strong, or it's not as, I don't know, the whole science behind it, right? But it's interesting that you have strains that are legal that do give people a high in a sense, and in these states. So I'm curious to see if we get a full countrywide federal legalization at some point. We'll see what happens. They've been talking about it. They've been teasing it for so long, but we'll see how this plays out. Some volume though. Look at Tilray. Volume is picking up. So it's definitely, I would be watching this sector for sure. And then with that, SNDL is one of those as well. Play the SNDL run. This is crazy at about $1 support right now. So we'll see how SNDL holds up roughly here. If it can hold $1, that could be a decent opportunity for a pickup there. Hoping NVOS keeps running. OPTT, I like that. I'm not in it, but I like that play as well. NVOS is an interesting one. It's one of my swings. I mean, here's what you guys can see how I like to play my swings. I mean, look at this. It's bottom. It's a bottom play. That's it. That's what it is. Look at BCTX for the same thing. BCTX, same exact thing, bottom feeding, right? We're grabbing bottoms here. Boom, they drop news, thing goes up 100%. So I'm looking, that's the type of plays that I like for swings for sure. Penn or DraftKings? For me, it's DraftKings. I have Penn. I like both personally. I've just been buying Penn in the long term. Opinion on Vaxar, they got a PT upgrade, a price target upgrade, right? Let's pull this bad boy up. You had a pretty big day. Vaxar's an interesting stock. I was looking at it for a short opportunity because I know it tends to not hold its gains, but then I saw the price target upgrade and I was like, no, I'm not going to mess with that. Ideally, I was paying, you guys can kind of see where I was. I was here, I was watching it in this channel, and then I looked away because I didn't extend the channel, and I was like, yeah, whatever. I think at the time I was like, I'm not going to mess with it, but it hit exactly $10. It like quadruple topped here at $10, where you had like all these candles hitting exactly $10, and then it fell back off. Quadruple top at 10, pull back to VWAP, so a nice like $1 pullback, and then it actually fell off a little bit. But it's actually, I mean, with the new PT upgrade, I don't know. It has quite the range back to the left, although we're going to have resistance up around $11. We hit 10, so resistance at 11, and then up towards this 12.75. So I don't know. I would like it down here sub 8. If I had to pick, but I mean, we may not get that right now. So that's at least just my take on it for the time being. Yes, guys, you know those WhatsApp numbers. Don't fall for any of that stuff, please. EVFM is another stock also. So I started to rant on the journaling stuff, but EVFM, company management has been a pain. EVFM, I shorted it on Friday, just small, nothing crazy, just because I was like, hey, this thing popped up. I grabbed it up here. I saw this triple top here where we had 3 candles hitting 137. I shorted it from like 135 down to VWAP, down to like this 125. I would have I had my stop loss literally at 138, so I was going to stop out if it popped 1 cent, but I was looking for a very nice risk reward, and all I did was I moved my stop loss down, and then I went to get a haircut. I literally went to get a haircut, moved my stop loss to like 127, and eventually popped back up, hit it. Okay, cool. I stopped out, but I made 8 cents per share on it on that short, but that was it. The reason why is because it popped up. We had insiders buying, I think in the low ones. CEO and a director, I believe, or CFO, I forget. They bought in the low ones. So for it to pop like that, I liked EVFM a lot, but the CEO selling shares back when they released their product, they've just been kind of weird to me. I made money on it a couple times, but for me right now, I would like to see how it holds up. I think it may find some resistance up around this 125. It filled this gap back up here, right? This gap right here. So we have this gap, I think it was an offering. Filled this gap, 30% move, which was nice. So give it some time. Let's see how it plays out Monday. It could make a move back up towards like $2, but I would want to see it kind of pulling back a little bit, holding support before we like to grab it. If it comes back down towards 1, that's a better spot risk reward wise personally. SLNO near bottom as well. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, look at that. Hit down towards 93 cents at 115 right now. And actually, even though it's at 115, it's holding up right here around this 110 area. So it's holding 110 support. So I would say risking down to 110 or grabbing a chunk here. If it can't hold 110, you can grab some down towards 1. If it can't hold 1, grab some in the 90s and maybe cut it off below 90. So what that would do, it would put your average roughly around $1. And so you'd risk about, 7 cents. If you risk it down to like 93, you'd risk about 7 cents on this guy for, look at the range. I mean, there's a gap fill here. If it gets over 175, it's got range up to like 250 or 240. So it's got quite the range there for sure. Let's see. OCGN. Interesting play. This is one that people got really caught up in and has pulled back, but where are we sitting up? We're kind of sitting at a decent spot. And we should be getting news on their vaccine very soon, I believe, right? But we're down into a decent area. So I kind of wouldn't mind it right here, down towards like $5. Wouldn't want to see it dropping below 5. Be paying attention to the news here. There is news driving this one as well, so be careful there. That's that. ASMB is an interesting play because this is one. So this is a stock that I liked a while back. I want to say in February or back, earlier this year. And it just never made maybe I sold some. I grabbed some here and I sold some on this pop. But ever since then, it's been downtrending. So it's trying to curl off the bottom here. I don't think it's got a terrible risk reward. I mean, look at this. Volume increasing. Okay, the stock has moved a little bit, but volume's increasing. I think it's got quite the range. So I don't mind that play at all. It seems very, very solid in terms of a risk reward scale right there as well. AEI insiders buying at 5 a share. I'm gonna pull up on the side here really quick. I'll just pull it up and look at this. Insiders bought 495. Yeah, so they bought some significant amounts. The thing with AEI though is that's nice, and it's holding a nice trend, and we could be looking at a cup and handle pattern. So we say cup and handle. Here's your kind of cup right here, and now we pull up, and now we want to see a little bit of a pullback. Let's develop that handle right here, a little handle on that cup, and then a push up. That's what you want to see. So that's what I'd want to see for AEI. If AEI pulls back down to like $5, I'll probably grab it. That's where insiders bought, so I'll probably grab it around there. And if it develops that handle, I would like that. If not, if it goes without me, it goes without me. But it made a nice move up over 6, so I do like that. Let's see, ADMP. Let's pull up ADMP, and then we'll wrap things up fairly soon. ADMP had a nice little run, and then it's holding up around $1. Let's see if it holds $1. If it can hold $1, that's a good sign for this thing to head back up long in the near future. So I kind of like that. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let's take a look at futures really quick again. I want to make these like roughly about an hour long. Obviously, if we dive into more stuff, I'm not going to hold us to that time frame. But for those who missed the lives, I know it's not the best time for everybody. I want it to be a manageable amount of time so that you can come back and watch after the fact and scan through what we talked about in this. So futures are green. Crude oil futures are even, roughly, right now. That's that. The S&P looks prime for a push even higher to new highs, so we'll see if that happens this week. And things are fairly calm, I would imagine, right now in terms of the overall news front, right, market-wise, inflation news. People are everything's been fairly well digested, and things are fairly calm. So we'll see how this plays out into this week. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up button on the way out. Should be a very interesting week. I'm pumped for this week. And obviously, I'll be here with you guys talking about live Wednesday again, Tuesday, Thursday videos, Wednesday again, and then also Saturday, we go over the weekly recaps, what stocks I'm holding. So like always, check out yesterday's video if you want to know the stocks that I'm currently holding, why I'm currently holding them, and how I fared the past week in terms of my day trades, swing trades, all that stuff, because we are transparent here. We show you guys the L's, the W's, we do it all, right? We do it all. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Good luck.